so smart. Just know.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Coming off the bye week and getting ready for conference play on Saturday, obviously against a very talented team. Bye week was productive for us in terms of assessing where we are, what we do well, what we don't do well, an honest and transparent look at where we are and what we have to do to get better, whether it be tweaking, whether it be eliminating, whether it be just finding ways to put guys in position to make plays and be more effective and successful. So, and using that as we enter the week of practice, starting with yesterday against North Carolina. So that being said, questions, please.
Hi, Mario. I know you kind of touched on it on the radio this morning, but have you guys decided whether to have it be the starter on Saturday or be Jake or to start on Saturday?
We made that clear, yes, sir.
How has Tyler responded? How's he looked in practice since that last game?
Great competitive response. He's approached with energy, with ownership, with honesty and transparency, which we would expect of our guys, which is how we do it as a program, and worked really hard to have a real good week of practice, and we expect that to carry over into preparation.
And based on what you have seen from Jake, does he give you more confidence that if he is needed, he can run that offense?
The world of confidence in Jake. We feel we have two great quarterbacks and a third young one that's developing into a really good one as well. Jake showed that he's a really good player. He showed it in high school. He showed it in opportunities here. So a ton of confidence in him and a super bright future for him as well.
Tyler basically said, like, we're not giving up on our guy just because of a bad game, but was this a situation where coming out of that game you knew right away that he was still going to be the guy, or did you need to kind of see the way he was going to respond in practice and all that kind of stuff?
Well, you always have conversations with guys. When a guy has played as many games as he has, and it's not like he's been here for a ton of years, but he's been here long enough and has proven enough where a guy that works hard like that has proven himself, you always give them the benefit of the doubt. You dive into tape, and you find ways to get him better as opposed to just kind of flying around and, bashing and looking for critique and errors. So, our job is to make sure guys get better. So from the supporting cast, the technique, to what we call, how we call it, everything always assessed. Again, just a very honest and transparent assessment of where we are and what we have to do to improve and help our players perform better.
Mark, can you take us just back to last week and maybe what you guys actually did in the building, how many practices you had, or any of that kind of stuff, and then also, are there any guys you know for sure will be out this week against North Carolina because of injury?
Oh, we have some guys that are going to be out that haven't healed up yet, but we're not going to be able to give a full assessment on that until the end of the week. We will give that as soon as we possibly can. The bye week is completely dedicated to technique, fundamentals, scheme assessment, technique, wrinkles, and then we need to add to complement what we're doing. If something's not working, no matter how much we've had success with it in the past, but we can't seem to find the right way to do it or the right pieces, we move on from it and try to go to something that's going to give us a better chance, whether it be, name it, blocking, tackling, covering, throwing, catching, all that stuff. It is a physical week. We do some things that are very camp-like, but without losing sight of the fact that you need the bye week to get healthy. So.
You said this morning that you've done a better job communicating and making sure we can do things that fit our personnel at the current time. And I know you said there's a new scheme now and there's a new offensive coordinator. Have you considered putting in
Are we considering, come again so I could understand your question completely?
Like up-tempo, no huddle, spread kind of offense, or putting that in a little.
Well, we are a power spread offense. Sometimes we have condensed sets, sometimes they're spread out, right? Sometimes we have some tempo plays. We're not a fully committed tempo offense, if that's what you mean, where you're running a play every 12 to 14 seconds. That's not where we're at right now. What do we look at? We look at and consider anything that helps us move the ball and score points more efficiently. So you can't take anything off the table. You also can't get in a place where you're just trying to scrap things that you can get better at. You have to find exactly, to the best of your ability, what works best for your guys. And be really, really, truly honest with, okay, we can do this effectively. We can be good at this particular thing we can't. We're struggling with this concept, or we're struggling with this particular scheme. We can't do it at the level it needs to be done to be effective. Let's move on from it. That's the approach. So every single part of that, run game, pass game, protection-wise, it's all assessed and made a decision on.
Defensively, when you went back and watched the Middle Tennessee State game, was there a common thread on the issues in that game?
Well, there are 4 plays that result in about 315 plus yards, right? Explosive plays hurt us. Now, offensively, we put our defense in situations that weren't great, and we did do a pretty good job. But explosive plays are typically the result of an offense making a big play or a bust on defense, right? So, I mean, you saw, things. I don't know if things have to be rehashed in terms of, right, whether a guy got beat, whether we didn't communicate well enough. I mean, it's the same stuff. It hasn't changed in 2 weeks in terms of what actually happened. More importantly is what have we done going forward to address that. And again, assessing it and attacking it with practice, with a plan, a form of communication, technique work, scheme work, ways to help our guys be in situations where they can be successful has been the answer and the approach for us.
Coach, you defensively after that game, you said beat on man coverage essentially on those long plays. Is that something you're going to reevaluate? Maybe you need to drop back more, or do you have confidence these guys can still one-on-one win their battle?
Well, kind of like we said then, like we said earlier today, everything is always assessed. Some things you have to get better at, some things you have to provide health for, and some things you just have to throw out. In college football, you can't throw out man coverage. At some point in time, you have to play man. And we have had guys that have played very well in man coverage, and other times we haven't played well. So our approach is very meticulous and very to the point. Assess who can do it, how well we can do it. If we're not doing it well because of technique, let's improve technique. If we're not doing it well because of ability, then we have to do something else. Now, that approach is taken for every single scheme that we have. And if we feel we're at a point where we could do this and improve upon it, we'll do it. If we feel that we can't, then we won't. Hopefully that answers the question.
Well, North Carolina obviously has an elite quarterback, Drake Man's just a first-year starter, but that passing game and their offense, just talk about what they do well and what impresses you.
Yeah, they're an elite passing attack. A lot of juniors and seniors starting for them. He gets the ball out quick. He extends drives, not only with his arm. He sees the field very well, tall guy. Gets the ball out on time, gets it out before time, so the pass rush doesn't affect him much. But he knows where to go with the ball, and if protection breaks down, he's extended plays, made some unbelievable throws, and he's also done a great job with his legs. They've run quarterback draw so many different ways, and he's a long, athletic body, and he throws his body around. You saw him over there close to the goal line going up, and just about doing everything possible to move the sticks. So an excellent football player, and one that we have to be at our best to defend.
Anything else for Coach Cristobal? Looking back and looking at him, Henry Harris came out last 2 weeks ago. Jalen came out, and how are you guys kind of spreading the air, keeping guys healthy and balancing that out, I guess?
Yeah, we're working on trying to get healthy. Too early in the week to say where we're at. I think we're on the mend. Certainly guys are on a positive path to getting healthy again, but we're not all the way there.
Dad was the guy who finished the game there, kind of one guy who finished the game there for you guys last week. He's been kind of a really good role player, but it feels like kind of since day one. How do you feel he could handle that bigger responsibility if that's needed, if he needs to?
Sure. Yeah, no, we feel confident that he can, and we got to impress that upon him and make sure that he fully understands that. I think he wants to do that. I think he's learning more and more, and he's growing in that role. So he's a guy that has gained our trust, and he's going to have the trust of all his teammates with the way we're pushing him to practice and make sure he understands every bit of it, because it's not just running the football right, it's protections, it's blocking, it's all that stuff. So Thad has certainly come a long way, and we expect that his best football is still ahead of him also.
Mario, Zion also didn't dress for the last
He did
game.
not.
Was there a setback there? And I guess you expect he'll be back this week.
There was a setback. We expect that it's going to be close. You know, similar to where we were at the start of the season, where it was, you know, kind of healing up and getting right there. We're about in the same spot with him.
Frank Ladson, what did you like about what he showed?
Drastic improvement, confidence. Played hard, made contested catches, precision on his route running. Took a big step. It's something that we have been, from day one since we signed Frank Ladson, what we were hoping to see is starting to come together, and we expect another big week from him in terms of practice and preparation.
Jaleel made a couple, I think at least one nice play kind of down the stretch there. Obviously, bye week for these young guys. Is this like a kind of a time when you can see freshmen and guys who have been here not a whole lot of the time, like kind of take a jump, just having that extra week to, like you said, focus kind of on fundamentals and
Right.
not have to game plan, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and you also assess what those guys can do and how they can help you, really for everybody in the building, right? Once you get going during the season, you go with certain guys, you keep improving the roster. We do what we call the opportunity scrimmage every Friday, where we have 16 to 24 plays with the guys that are on the look team or guys that don't get a lot of reps during the game. We figure by mid-season, guys have logged in excess of 160, 180 live plays. They can help you if they've advanced within the scheme. And guys like that, Jaleel has always been advanced. He's been getting better and better since the day he got here, you know, during spring ball. So he's going to be a great player for us. He has contributed a bunch, and he'll continue to contribute more and more.
Mario, how is Arroyo? What's your assessment of him? How's he doing now?
Elijah has been doing really well. Some of you guys know he did get banged up, so we're not sure if he's going to be able to play for us this Saturday. So, non-contact. So
I don't know if we've asked you about a timetable for Jacoby and his return. Is there?
Sure. Tricky because of what he has. You know, you'd like a best case of a couple more weeks, 2 to 3, and then a worst case of 4 to 5. So he'll be out for a bit. We expect Restrepo back in another, 5.5 weeks, maybe a little bit more. I'm trying to think who else. Well, kind of the same timelines for the other guys. Some guys are, you know, a guy that may be back in about 6-7 weeks towards the end of the season who else would it be? No, running back, we're good. Yeah, you know, it's a good list, so, but we're getting there, is what it is.
Have you explored other positions at receiver, like during the bye? Or?
We always do. There's not a big pool to choose from to play receiver. You know, I think sometimes, you know, a lot of people get caught up and a guy runs fast, say he caught the ball and did this one particular time in high school. It's a little bit more than that. You know, we're playing the best guys that we have, you know, and guys are working really hard to try to improve. We're working to the best of our capacity. We've got to increase and improve our capacity. You know, that's where we're at as we continue to develop and enhance, you know, our team, our program, and our roster. But that's where we're at.
Tyler's had some moments where it's just his passes look like they've been off target. And I don't know if it's throwing motion, is something mechanical that you guys picked up on, or it's just he's just off. What would you say is kind of happening?
I wouldn't say it's mechanical. We got to do a really good job of cleaning things up for him, and we've got to do a really good job with the supporting cast. When you're a quarterback's the hardest position, right? So we've got to make it it's never comfortable, but we've got to make it as clean and as clear for him to operate at a high level, you know, especially when you're in a new system. Okay. So I wouldn't say anything on him mechanically. He is busting his butt. He's working hard. We call it like it is. You know, I always tell the truth about a guy. I never throw a guy under the bus. I won't do that. I don't think that's right. But I certainly don't try to also cover up for a guy if they're doing the wrong things and stuff like that. It's a rough game, and has had a really good week since then. And he's got his much or more pride than anyone I've ever been around, and we have all the confidence in the world in him. Okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, our offensive coordinator Josh Gattis is ready for questions.
Now that you've had some time, what do you feel went wrong in the last game, and what can you guys do to make it better this week?
Well, first off, we just kind of focused on improving throughout the bye week, trying to get as healthy as we can, improve, not necessarily focusing on the past, but moving forward to the future. And obviously, we just gotta get better in a lot of different areas, fundamentally, everything. And so we've had really good practice last week, and it was good energy, and that's what you want to see out of your team in a bye week.
When your quarterback's struggling and, the offense in general, just to move the ball when you want to, you have a bye week like this, is it a lot of meetings with the quarterback, hey, this is what we want to do, or this is what you feel better doing, or how do you sort of go about fixing it?
Well, it's reestablishing confidence in your players, reestablishing confidence in everyone, coaches, system, everything. Just gives guys an opportunity to kind of move forward. This is a time right now where, confidence is important. A lot of times, these kids or people are reading whatever they want to read, and you're going to become what you read. And so for us, we're not too focused on that. We're focused on trying to build a culture, trying to instill confidence in our players to allow our players to go and be confident on the field.
Do you collaborate and just ask Tyler, for example, what are you comfortable with executing?
Yeah, I mean, that's every game. We want to try to make sure that our guys have a great grasp on what we're doing, how to do it, and most importantly, the fundamentals to execute those type plays. And we get great feedback from our players. We obviously keep them very involved, and we try to do what they do best, and that's an important piece to any team, is try to put your players in position to be successful.
Josh, what did you see from Tyler the past, week and a half? Position he hasn't really been in the past year. How did you see him interact, just emotionally and mentally?
Well, I don't know what he's been through, but Tyler, he just seemed like Tyler. He had a really good week last week, and really kind of bouncing back. And Tyler's, he's a great kid, man. Just tremendously just a great leader, great person on his team, and players respect him. And so, I don't think there's any cloud that's hanging over top of him at all. It's time for us to move forward as a team and as a program. And we're not too much hung up on the past. We're looking forward to the opportunity that we have to start ACC play this week.
When Jake Garcia came in, he started taking some shots down the field. Was it a different game plan at all from what Tyler was doing, or was maybe Tyler not taking as many shots and Jake was just being more aggressive?
No. It's sometimes games go that way. Flows and rhythm of games, and so obviously Jake did a really good job coming in, executing, and it's one that we look back on it. We just didn't capitalize on things early in the game, but we've got the utmost confidence in Tyler. He's our quarterback, and just like as Jake came in, we got the utmost confidence in him, and Jake has done a great job preparing, and he was able to go in and have some success.
Just the physicality up front against Middle Tennessee just didn't look like where it was in the previous 3 games. How do you feel that the O-line has been bouncing back since then?
Well, we really stress the importance, right, of trying to recreate, and our identity is what we got to go out and reestablish. We can't just talk about identity anymore. We've got to go out there and reestablish it, and that starts with everybody. That starts with all the 11 people. That starts with myself. That starts with the kids being committed to a vision and understanding that vision of who we want to be as a team and on offense. And so, we weren't pleased in certain areas of the game. Obviously, a lot of different areas, and we're not going to sit there and point out one particular thing because we didn't do enough things well, the last time we played. And so we've got to get better overall. We've got to get healthy. We've got to get better. And I think that's been probably our biggest challenge, is just staying consistent, staying healthy, staying consistent, and having guys out there, taking those reps in games.
What did Middle Tennessee do to your offense to create so much success with their defense early in that game?
It's not necessarily about what a certain team did to us. It's about just the lack of execution on our part. We got a little rattled early on. The game got rattled in itself, and obviously you never put your team in position in a good mental state when you have 3 turnovers within the first 6 or 7 offensive plays, and 2 of those turnovers were just plays, and so. We've got to be able to respond back from adversity, and then that's overall as a team, right? You can't get caught up in the ups and downs of games. There's going to be positive momentum swings. There's going to be negative momentum swings. You got to be able to withstand the positive, and you got to bounce back from the negatives. And unfortunately, we didn't bounce back. It really kind of took the air out of the team, and that's something we can't do.
How do you guys prevent, as a coaching staff, just prevent that from happening? We're throwing out a team that can score a lot. If they go up early, how do you keep the team from getting rattled and getting kind of the air taken out of them?
Well, the biggest thing we got to continue to just coach and develop is culture. Got to develop culture, and you've got to eliminate any bad or old culture. It's not a here we go again type moment. You've got to be able to have your players instill the confidence that hey, we are going to push through. We're going to overcome these tough, adverse situations. You can't ever fall back to a moment where you say, well, man, this is the same thing. It's not. And that's why culture is something that we've got to continue to build every day, every aspect of our program. And so I think we've learned that the hard way. I think our kids understand the importance of that, and we look forward to moving on.
Coach, your offense this season has been split pretty evenly between running plays out of condensed formations and non-condensed formations. How would you assess so far your offense's performance in these more condensed looks?
So this condensed formation, condensed formations, I think, require a look at what the situation is, right? We've been facing a lot of short yardage scenarios, right? So condensed formations allow you to get enough people into the box to protect double edges, right? And I think oftentimes, you get caught up in saying whether it's condensed. I don't know what a condensed formation is. We have some condensed formations, but we don't live primarily in those. But I think they're very particular to situational football, whether it's short yardage situations, goal line situations. Those are type situations where we do condense our formation down just a little bit to be able to protect both edges.
Josh, you have several running backs banged up. Maybe they'll play, maybe not. But, how do you compensate for that?
Well, it's not anything that we haven't gone through all year long. We've been battling this challenge, since the spring, and that's specifically just on offense. And so we got to overcome adversity. We can't hang our hats on it. There's been times this year I probably let it emotionally get me, but you know what? We just got to keep preparing the next man. We've got to have the next man ready. We've got the utmost confidence in everyone from a preparation standpoint. And even the guys that we don't quite feel as confident, we got to help bring them along. That's coaching. We got to develop those players, those backup players, to be ready in any type of situation. And so that's a big job for us as coaches. And then also that's a big job for the players preparing themselves, because we don't have as much depth as we would like. But we've got to have everyone ready for their opportunity when it comes.
On that note, then, Thad has to be the guy like he was in the fourth quarter last game. How do you, where is he at just in terms of being the guy who can be on the field for the majority of, or the plurality of snaps at running back?
Well, just specifically not just running back, but all of our guys have got to prepare that as if they're going to have to be the guy. When you look at our depth across the board, whether it's receiver, tight end, running back, we don't have as much depth offensive line, and so I think it's important that the importance of understanding what every rep means. Every rep in practice, every rep in games, every opportunity in the film room. Each one of our players have to prepare themselves as if they're going to be that guy, and so we got to do a great job making sure that we're teaching and developing our players, as coaches, and then two, the next part is our players got to do a great job of preparing and executing themselves as players, and so we've got to collectively come together and continue to bring our roster together from the bottom up.
Time for a few more for Coach Gattis.
How has Jake Garcia maybe responded, since the last game? I know Coach told us that Tyler will be starting, but just his attitude.
But Jake's attitude hadn't changed since I've gotten here. He's just a phenomenal kid to coach, man. He just has so much fun playing the game of football. And I don't think Jake is reflected on last game at any point. I don't think he's, Jake is a true professional in what he does. He shows up every day preparing as if he's a starting quarterback. And, if anything ever happened, obviously we've got tremendous confidence and faith in him. And so I've never seen him change, whether it's been success or failure. He's been the same even-keel type person that plays with tremendous energy and passion. Our players really respond to him and they like him. But he's been the same Jake, and it's not just a result of last game, but he's been the same since I've been here.
John, with the conference part of the schedule coming up, are you having to make adjustments now in terms of tightening your playbook and finding different ways because of the injuries and stuff to maybe do some things?
Well, with conference play, right, the stakes grow a little bit higher, and we've got to understand, and, we've got to up our level. You can't just have certain games where you play up to your opponent or play down to your opponent. You've got to stay consistent in what you do, in the approach that you take. And then obviously with injuries, there's going to come different things, that adjust, what you do and how well you do it. But ultimately, we've got to come together. We've got to find out what our players can do best, and we've got to do that. And we've got to do that not just Monday through Friday, but that's got to show up on Saturdays. And I think that's a very key important piece in the development phase, is just making sure that we're able to go out there and execute things the way they should be on Saturday. And that's on us as coaches. We got to do a great job of developing these guys and instilling the confidence and allowing those guys to go out there and play confidently.
Last question for Coach Gattis.
Have you considered coming down to the field and coming out the booth and coming down to the field again?
I think during bye week you always do an assessment of different type things or how can you help impact your team if you see them obviously in a struggling situation or any adverse situation. And there's different things that we've discussed, different things that I've obviously thought about. But right now it's about just maximizing every opportunity we can get in practice. Really being passionate, really being positive, creating good positive energy because these kids feed off that. They're 18 to 21. We deal with kids in the emotional stage. So as positive as we can be, the positive they will be. And so, we haven't had the success, obviously, the last 2 weeks that we've wanted, but we're going to be positive. We're going to be upbeat about it. We're going to continue to move forward. We're not going to let a cloud just hang over top of our program. We still got a long season left. We look forward to getting into conference play.
All right, Coach, thank you very much for your time. Thank you. We'll have Coach Steele in here shortly.
defensive coordinator Kevin Steele will open up for questions.
We saw obviously some big plays in the passing game by Middle Tennessee last time out. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe how it's been addressed before North Carolina?
Yeah, well, the first thing you got to know is if you see something on tape or you see it on the field, okay, and it doesn't look right, that's on me, okay? It's not, the players play, coaches coach, that's a coaching job. So that's my responsibility. It totally falls on me 100% to get it rectified. Now, to address that and assess that, it was really very uniquely different. I've been in games before where you would be playing a certain coverage and they would attack it a certain way, or maybe a personnel mismatch where you had a mismatch and they just keep attacking the same thing. That was really, really a very different deal in that we had 4 big plays that were, they were probably defined the game. They really did. And, you know, like I said, that's on me. But those 4 plays, when you break it down, 2 of them were in the same coverage, but 2 completely different areas of attack. One of those was just technique-wise. We need to clean up some technique there. The other one was a 5-yard route and 2 missed tackles and a backside leverage guy that fell down. So that's what that was. The other 2, one of them was a miscommunication versus an empty set, and then the other one was a technique error that falls completely squarely on my shoulders. We got good players, we got good guys. They bought in. They're very coachable. So when something like that happens, it starts and ends with me. And so I got to get it fixed. We worked very hard. You know, it wasn't something that we saw coming. I don't think any of us in that room that would say that. Didn't see it in spring, didn't see it in the fall camp, didn't see it the first 3 games in terms of that. But to have that happen in 4 times is unacceptable. We've got some communications and some technique things that fall on me again to get cleaned up, and they've come to work with a great attitude. They have a lot of want to. It's very positive. We worked very hard, and the off season helped us. Came at the right the off game helped us. It came before we started conference play. It came at the right time. To be quite frank with you.
Coach, the North Carolina offense is playing well behind a very good quarterback. What do you see from him, and how do you defend him?
Well, I think that's a $64 million question. One of those I'm going to reserve the right to not completely answer it because I know Coach Brown pretty well. I coach with 3 of their offensive coaches, and all of those guys are very intelligent guys, and they can read. So I don't think I'm going to expose the game plan to you, if that's okay. He's a big guy, number 1. And so when you look at him, you think, you know, kind of the prototype quarterback NFL build. But he's like the Buffalo Bills guy in that he is a willing runner and very capable runner. He throws the ball very accurately. He disperses it around. You know, Phil, the offensive coordinator long ago, does a really good job schematically. They've got very talented receivers. They get the ball out of their hand quick. They do run tempo offense, and so he gets it out of his hand really, really quick. He's accurate with it. But probably the thing that pops up more than anything, particularly in the start of the games, when he's starting out in the first quarter, you know, because some of their games have been high scoring and lopsided, is that he keeps the chains moving. He extends drives with not 40, 50-yard scrambles. You know, it's not like Lamar Jackson running around out there and you got Nintendo football or whatever they play now. I don't even know whatever it is. But y'all plug in the word that they play for now, whatever those things are called, where he's just bouncing around and you can't tackle him. That's not it. He can make a big play because he can run, but he just extends drives. You know, they need 12 yards on a 3rd and 10. I mean, a 3rd and 10, they need 10 yards, and he scrambles for 12. You know, it's 2nd and 6, and everything's bottled up. You got it covered, and he scrambles for 7. You know, he just extends plays. But, you know, they've got the their wide receiver core across the board is very good. Obviously, number 11 is the go-to guy. He missed some games, very good player. But then in total catches, I think the tight ends got 13, 14, and 6 catches among them. So really that position is right up there with the slot position has 22 and 16 catches. So, you know, they're right there equal in terms of distribution of the ball.
Coach Steele, you've been in a lot of locker rooms over the years, many I'd say. How would you say
A few.
how would you say the attitude is in the locker room after that performance? Because it felt like coming off the A&M game, you guys were building confidence. Is the confidence shaking?
Anytime that happens at that moment, you know, I mean, instant response at that moment before you have time to evaluate it, before you have time to regroup. Obviously, everybody has emotions, but not divisive at all, not in any way, shape, or form. And then our head coach, who you guys talk to all the time, I mean, he has a way to communicate what he needs to communicate in a positive, reinforcing, we will get it corrected manner in which makes it believable and able to buy into. And so we just, everybody hurts, you know, the 24-hour rule. You've heard it before. You got 24 hours to get over it, and then you got to bounce back. The thing that was a little bit difficult in terms of just from my perspective is you didn't play the next week. So, you know, that was a little bit painstaking, but we got through it.
Coach, Keontre Smith got the start against Middle Tennessee. He's been playing a lot over the past few weeks.
Who's that now?
Oh, Keontre Smith.
Uh-huh.
What have you really seen from him so far to really allow that his role has increased?
Well, what we're doing there is, I mean, we're a situational matchup group. So depending on what we're seeing, how we're seeing it, that's kind of how some of those decisions are made. But he's progressed very nicely. He's a smart guy. He's very coachable. He works hard. So, you know, it shows up in his playing time.
On Gilbert Frierson, is there any type of plan trying to get him more involved
Yes.
forward?
Yes. We're searching that. In that, you know, he's really he's got a very high football IQ. He's a really smart player. When you get into those personnel matchups and where to put him and how to put him and those kind of things, we've done some searching there. We've tweaked it a few times. We've recently tweaked it again. But he's smart enough to do that. It's not like he has to move position and it's 6 weeks before he can play. That's not him at all. He's very communicative. He understands what he does plus what somebody else does, so it makes it a little easier. But you are correct in your assessment in that, yes, we are. We're working that hard.
Tyreek Stevenson, I know you didn't finish the game. Tyreek, just curious where he's at, and I know he's a big time part of the team.
Yeah, well, first of all, as you know, as an assistant coach, I do not comment on injuries at all. I've been doing this long enough to not know that, so I don't go there. But he's, as far as I know, he's doing fine. He's doing fine.
And these guys have developed a system since Mac got there where they're capable of flipping the switch and scoring a lot of points in bunches. What exactly are they doing, and what's been the secret potion?
Well, Phil was at Ole Miss, you know, and so we played him every year while he was at Ole Miss with Hugh Freeze and then with Matt Luke as the offensive coordinator. It's very quarterback driven in terms of, you know, when they have a quarterback that can get their ball out of the hand and disperse it to the right place at the right time with accuracy, because it does go fast. It's not, and I think he would tell you this. I'm not trying to put. It's not overly complex. But they run precision routes. Got a little bit of the Mike Leach run to open space. You know, not totally, but you know they're going to find the seams and they're going to look for personnel mismatches.
Anything else for Coach Steele? On Avante Williams, I noticed you had mentioned this probably a few games back, that he wasn't cross-trained for playing against free safety. Noticed over the last course of a few games, he's been playing some free safety as well, aside from the strong side.
Right.
Can you go a little more into that?
Sure, I can. We name it strong safety, free safety. The place I came from, it was right safety and left safety. So that's a little bit of a misnomer. You know, there are hashes in college football, but as you know, if you watch very much, there's some teams that exploit the boundary as much as they exploit the field. In the NFL, it's almost in the middle of the field, so which is which? And when you've got so much formation in the boundary now that you get, there's not a lot of difference. I mean, cross-training that position, you can call them strong safety, free safety, play one to the field and play the one to the boundary, but the way the game is gone with formations now, it's about the same thing.
What was your assessment on Daryl Porter and how he played with his snaps against Middle Tennessee?
Much improved, much improved. Confidence, he's kind of feeling the confidence of things, and you know, he's a transfer guy at a very, very, I guess the word for it, pressure-driven position, and it new system, those kind of things. There's some growth there, and I think you saw him grow. I mean, you did. It was evident on the tape.
With the injuries at cornerback, will Al Blaze be looked at to playing a little more cornerback here in the future?
Everything's on the table to play the best players in the situation that presents itself. So, again, you got to catch me in a rough spot here because, you know, do you show your cards when you're playing cards at the card table? I'd rather not mine either. If it was just for the Miami fans, I'd be great. But the problem is that this day and age, you know, back in the day, you could have a press conference, and if you had one in Miami, nobody in North Carolina was going to get the paper. And they had no way of getting the paper unless their grandmother brought it back from vacation to them. All right? When y'all walk out of here, they're going to be able to read exactly what I said within 3 minutes. So forgive me on that if you don't mind.
How do you feel about
All I want is an unfair advantage.
how do you feel about some of the guys who haven't played as much at cornerback? That guys like Jaden Harris, Kamari Rogers, Malik Curtis, and those guys haven't progressed in the last couple of weeks.
Well, you know, we have a thing on Fridays where we actually scrimmage the young guys who have not. You know, we got to build it into the 20-hour rule, but we average scrimmage. We get a good amount of snaps to work those guys, so that's helped them progress. And then just being in the system and growing in the system. And then the off week allowed us to get them some work too. So obviously always building for the future of next Saturday, and the future of next year, and the future of beyond that.
Just more for Coach. And just more specifically about Jaden Harris, you know, he played some key moments against Middle Tennessee. What has he shown so far as a true freshman that has allowed him to play, you know, such a big role so far, so early into his career?
Well, I think the first thing you've seen is injuries. You know, the number one star and the number two star went down, so he had to go in. And but he's a smart guy. He's worked hard. It wasn't like we were standing over wringing our hands because he was in at all. He's progressing very, very nicely. But that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, next man up, and that's what happened in the situation.
On Isaiah Dunson, we had noticed he made some progression towards the spring. One of the guys standing out a bit back then.
Right.
He's played a bit sparingly through the first few games. Is there any sort of possibility he could play more?
Well, you know, our job is to do this, and not to say he's not, okay, but we get a lot of questions nowadays about depth charts and who's playing and why they're not playing and who's not. At the end of the day, we can only put 11 guys on the field, okay? And I don't think there's anybody in the room that wouldn't look at things and say, okay, based on this situation and this play and who's they've got on the field, who's the best 11 to put out there? And now, are we always right? No, we're not always right. Do we work to always have more we can do it? Yes, we do. But we can only put 11 out there. And as you well know, at corner's almost like quarterback. You just don't substitute to see it substituted. You know, I mean, it's got to be a situation where, you know, okay, it's time to substitute at this position, because you're on an island out there. You're on an island, and so we wish we could play everybody all the time. Every game, everybody come in the locker room and everybody get 50 snaps. But they only allow us to put 11 out there, and if we put more, they're going to call a penalty on us, and then we run out of snaps at some point in time. So it's not that we're not working for that. It's not that we'd not like to see that. It's just that that's the way it works, realistically, being very candid with you.
Coach, and then how would you evaluate your team's tackling so far through 4 games?
We have made a lot of improvement, some of us more than others, but the confidence is coming, the ability to get guys to the ball and not get singled up on tackle is coming. Again, as you well understand, there's a lot, I mean, that's a work in progress you can ask that for every press conference I stand in here for the rest of the time I'm here, and then the next guy that's standing here can ask him. And the reason it is because there's so little opportunities in spring and in the fall camp to tackle to the ground. You just don't have it. Well, last time I looked, that's what a tackle is. So, I mean, do you play golf? Okay, if you did, you would probably go out in your backyard and swing the club very nicely and dream, boy, that went down the fairway, okay? But you get on the golf course and it went in the rough. Why? Because you had to really hit the ball somewhere. Well, you have to tackle them to the ground. And the best way to get that is to be able to do it. That makes sense. All right, thanks, guys.